Here we go.
Noel Nation, welcome into another episode of the Renegade Rundown. As always, I've got the lovely and beautiful Jen Santee, aka at Jen Santee 1890. You can find her on X, Jen Santee everywhere else. Got my guy Deshawn Adams, aka at Deshawn Adams 18, and those Twitter handles are right there above and below them respectively. That's again at Jen Santee 1890, at Deshawn Adams 18. Make sure you go follow those. We're gonna plug Deshawn's YouTube channel in a little bit. Of course, my Twitter handle at Renegade Report 1. You can find me as well. I think that's the first time I've got through the introductions without fumbling Deshawn's name in like 10 shows. So I'll give myself a little pat on the back for that. But we got a big show coming up for you guys. We are now officially 8 practices down in FSU's preseason camp, which amounts to a third of camp. We are literally 3 weeks away from kickoff from Florida State football in Ireland. We are really pumped up. We get our first scrimmage. We've had, I believe, 2 practices now, maybe 3. I could be mistaken, of full pads. We're going to get our fully padded first scrimmage. Usually is a situational scrimmage, going off what we've seen in years past. And when they asked Mike Norvell about it the day before yesterday, that's what he said. Similar to what they've done. So we're going to get a lot of red zone work, a lot of situational work with a lot of these young players, get to find out what kind of talent Florida State really has this year. We don't get like an actual stat box. We don't get the perfect stats you would get out of a game, but they do allow media in there, and they do some stat keeping of themselves and put it out, just like we always get to find out about interceptions and things like that in team drills and practice. So we'll hit up our sources tomorrow after. We'll watch all the film. We'll come back and break that down. But we got a lot of stuff we want to preview as far as different position units. I know there's a lot of stuff you guys are worried about, wide receiver, linebacker, things of that nature. So we're going to go through all that and preview the scrimmage, as well as AG Moody finally getting discovery that she's been asking for as it pertains to the ACC ESPN contract. This thing is heavily redacted, y'all. So we don't have the whole kit and caboodle in front of us. That said, Florida State, the ACC, and the case there in Leon County, they do. They have their hands on the whole kit and caboodle. So everything that's blacked out within this latest bit of information that was made completely public is not. It will be shown in the court case, so fear not. But even with all the redactions, there's quite a few things that we can draw and at least confirm a lot of the reporting that we've done with you guys over the last couple months, close to a year now. And Rohan can hopefully, he does a good job when I get too far out ahead of my skis, or Jen or Deshawn or anybody else, of no, kind of here we are, here's what the law really says. But I think you guys are really going to get pumped up to hear that conversation coming up at right about the turn of the hour, about 8 Eastern. He should be here. And we'll really get into what it all means and what it means for Florida State getting out of the ACC and possibly heading to the Big Ten. Really big news, big stuff, and just really excited about all that stuff. I know Jen and Deshawn are as well. How are we doing today, Jen?
Good, doing good. I'm happy it's Friday. So, bring on the weekend, getting closer to football starting. So I'm good.
So close, man. 3 weeks out. How are you feeling, Deshawn? You hyped up to finally get a little news back from the scrimmage?
Yeah, I'm actually really watching 2 particular position groups, or just wanting to hear about. Yeah, I'm excited, man. It's just ready for the ball, the real ball to start.
Yeah, for sure. Wide receiver, that's number one. Everybody's talking about wide receiver. Another one is linebacker, just for the sheer fact of you lose 2 seniors who took all the snaps for the past 2 or 3 years, just about all of them. When you talk about Kalen DeLoach and then Tatum Bethune the past 2 years there, you got DJ Lundy, luckily hit the portal. He comes back home. And you've got Cam Riley, who's been kind of the leading candidate. So we'll start there. We can start with linebackers. Hopefully that's one of your 2. If not, we'll circle back to one of those for sure. When it comes to linebacker, I wanted to start with Randy Shannon because I just watched his interview. I actually watched it back 2 or 3 different times. It wasn't very long, but I really, really like the things he said as it pertains to coaching and kind of the reason he has the linebackers in the room he does, and kind of explaining what linebacker is inside of a 4-2-5 defense. I've tried to explain it, articulate it. I'm not the best in the world, but I'll try to do it again and use a little bit of what he said. Basically, you know, when you're looking at nickel defense, 4-2-5, what we run, unlike a 3-4 in the NFL where you're going to have 4, sometimes 5 linebackers if you've got a linebacker rushing the passer, there's a wide array of the position. You have people that do all kind of different things. You have the inside linebacker, you have the outside linebacker, you got Samuel, you got all these different things. At Florida State, you've only got 2 guys on the field. To me, the way I perceive that is it just does away with outside linebacker. There's no such thing as an outside linebacker in a 4-2-5 defense, kind of the way I've seen it. Those guys coming out of high school that are 250, 260 pounds, could possibly rush the passer. Like those guys, to me, they're going to go to Florida or somewhere because they're a D end here at Florida State. And yet I would complain about the lack of variety. I'm like, well, how come we can't get any 6'3s, any 6'4s? Why aren't we recruiting any of these freak linebackers? Well, we kind of got a few from the portal, and Randy kind of answered that. He said, look, depending on what defense you're in, yeah, sure, we've got guys that are better as outside linebackers. We've got guys that are better as inside linebackers. But it doesn't mean you always put the 2 inside guys out there. You may put the 2 outside guys out there. It just depends on the formation. And so to be in that 4-2-5, you've got to be able to stop the run, the pass. You've got to be able to do everything. You're just not able to get into those jumbo sets, send all those guys, show them that you're going to send them in the middle of the field like you used to with how spread out the fields are. But I know you're really good with X's and O's, or if anything, a little bit better than I am. So curious on those comments and just kind of how he laid that out there about the linebackers and who you're excited to see.
I'll be honest, I didn't see Randy's interview, but just understanding the nature of what he recruits to, that's one of the things we've had. He has a type, we throw that phrase out a lot. But with Randy, with today's modern game, with that position at linebacker, it's more versatile than ever. Like you said, gone are those old days of the big backer that just stuffs the run. Because of the spread, it's changed the one position on offense was wide receiver, but on defense, it's really changed the linebacker and the defensive back, but in particular, what the linebacker's responsibilities is. Instead of just being gap sound, you have to be able to really cover, and you're not just covering tight ends. You're asked to cover slot receivers at times, in certain positions. So going to that, understanding that in the 4-2 defense, 4-2-5, your linebackers are specific to a certain type of body style. You're not going to have 240-pound linebackers. Now, right, what make Riley, and I'll speak specifically on him, very unique because of his height. And in our system and with our roster, he would normally be a defensive end. So that tells me that his ability to cover at that size, he has good hips and he can get out of his stance quick. That's quick feet. I'm really impressed at that. And that's where I'm looking to see specifically. So when you brought up the linebacker room, man, that was one of the rooms I was looking at specifically. And in specifics, Cam Riley, because I had some questions, with that tape when he committed. I was wondering how it would fit in in our system and how we play our linebackers.
Yeah, that's definitely a big call as I struggle to multitask there, try to respond to the chat.
Yeah.
Cam Riley specifically, you're right. When you look at the size, he looks like a Pat Payton. And I thought the same thing, until you kind of turn on the film.
Yeah.
He was probably somebody pissed off. Maybe it's at Auburn that wanted him to maybe get a little anger in him, whatever, gain a couple pounds and play defensive end. Looks like he could be an absolute animal on it. But he is an athlete out there in space and wants to play more of that coverage linebacker, just in what I've seen in film. So it makes sense that he could make that work. But, situationally, that's what I took from what Randy Cannon said. If it calls for it, they'll be out there. If they're trying to stop the run, maybe you put 2 of the outside guys out there, but it's not going to be a 3-4 or even a 4-3. You know, we're still running that
Hybrid.
base defense. And you've got to be able to do all things out of that base defense.
Yeah.
He also said another thing about his linebackers and trying to evaluate them in camp. I don't know if he meant as far as just against Florida State's offense or against offenses in general. But either way, he kind of pointed out, as far as defense goes, they don't do a ton of trying to guess what the offense is going to do. Get out here and, okay, well, since we think they're going to run this, and then base their, kind of formations and their personnel off of that. They just kind of figure out, what the situation is, and who can kind of do everything and that calls for that. Who do they trust to go out there and do the right thing? And then they react post snap. I thought that was pretty interesting too.
Yeah.
He coaches the guys to be able to turn them loose and go play. He doesn't try to be genius to figure it out. And on offense, when it's a lot easier to do, not so much on defense.
Yeah, Randy always has liked his linebackers, even going back to his Miami days, to be reactionary, not to have to think too much within the system, just be able to react to what it is that's going on. And it's sort of like what even Kalen DeLoach last year, what he explained. They were free to call fires when it called suited. So they had to fires, that's blitzes. He could call a blitz at any time. They were, depending on what they were reading out of the study. But what I found interesting with Randy is how he uses linebackers, even in Miami, going back to the Vilma, DJ Williams, those kind of linebackers, that they're very athletic. So the hybrid kind of term today is what he has. He has linebackers that's going to be able to do specifics, but both. And you don't have to, like you said, George, change your defense. It can kind of be like an amoeba, but without having to change personnel.
Facts on top of facts on top of facts. I'm really excited. I'm not going to go crazy. I think DJ Lundy and Cam Riley, they are the leaders there. But the ones I'm most excited about hearing about coming out of the sprint scrimmage are going to be Sean Murphy, our guy, Juice Cryer, and Blake Nicholson. Those are the three that I'm really, really excited about seeing what they can do to step up. I feel like, we're going to be all right. We're going to get to a certain level. I think Lundy and Cam Riley both have a floor that is pretty damn high. Like, it's not bordering third team all ACC level high. They are pretty damn good, and with a chance to really climb that. But injuries, man, we saw last year. Like, if you get to your fourth, fifth guy at a position, which is like, when you've got two linebackers and two safeties, that means the sixth guy on the roster, really, when you look at it, you're in trouble. But that third linebacker, that third safety, they're going to play quite a bit. So we got to have out of that group, out of Sean Murphy, Juice Cryer, and Blake Nicholson, we need somebody that we're going to be able to trust. I have a good feeling Randy could put any of those three out there right now for certain situations. But to reach that level of being able to put them out there at any given time and really expect them to make plays, really interested to see their development. But I've heard all good things so far. I don't know if you guys have heard anything on them thus far.
No, I haven't heard anything, but it's something that I found as you were talking that was very interesting, that you mentioned DJ and you mentioned Cam, and they're seniors, but the other three linebackers you mentioned were all freshmen. So that speaks to some future development, and it's basically just speaking to watching where their development go, where it's headed. So it will be intriguing because those three linebackers alone can shift the room for the foreseeing years, upcoming seasons, and not even this season. I expect to see all three play in the rotation. We don't play but two, but I can see some specific situations where they all do play.
Yeah, definitely a lot of second year players. We went through the whole 23 class, all the third year guys, and it was really a hit fest. They had like an 80% hit rate in that class. Really beautiful when you see everybody coming through. The 23 class or the 24 class, yet to remain. It remains to be seen. These guys are just getting there. But when you talk about Cam Davis, all the different guys, it's pretty awesome. There are some absolute studs out there. It's going to be a lot of fun to see as the talent ramps up for sure. But before we move on from linebackers, you mentioned Kalen DeLoach. We got to talk about him for a second. Holy shit. He is just Kalen DeLoach didn't get drafted. It was like it blew us away.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly who all was in the conversation, but I had a conversation with Chris talking about how we thought he could, get up as high as the 4th or 3rd round. It didn't happen. Dude didn't get drafted. He gets picked up as an undrafted free agent of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And every practice, shout out to Logan over there at Bucks game day, as well as Knowles game day. He's been doing a good job covering their camp. I mean, it's every single day. It's like sack, fumble, interception, pick 6. I mean, he's running with the ones over there right now. I know you guys cover NFL over on y'all's channel. Anything that you can share with us about Kalen DeLoach as he continues to look like he's going to make the team over there?
Well, nothing more than you've already spoken to. I will say, though, just to touch on that, is we were all shocked that he didn't get drafted, but we know he was a draftable player. So the Bucks ended up getting a real steal here. And I mean, the minute they signed him, a lot of people already knew he was going to make the roster. And he's so far in camp, he's cooking. He's showing everybody that he should have been drafted and possibly higher. But we have to wait and see how that translates and correlates once the season starts. But I do believe he'll make the roster. Like you said, in camp, he's been showing out, doing this assignment. He's gotten bigger too. He's even packed on a little bit more weight, and he's looking like he can carry it, because we had some concerns there with his weight being able to play in the league. And he's showing it, and he's a perfect fit for Tampa's scheme too. So it's like a glove on the hand.
It really was a perfect situation. We were all really hoping he would get drafted there, but
yeah.
I'll tell you what it does. It does for Randy Shannon and Mike Norvell and Adam Fuller all alike. We've yet to remain to be seen, what exactly all the 10 draft picks are going to do. But when one of your undrafted free agent, your 11th guy, pretty much off the board, is running with the ones at Tampa Bay, a place that is just known for having the absolute freak linebackers always. That just goes to speak to the development and exactly what's going on. And, to the viewers at home, that should be a breath of fresh air. Again, when you look at this roster and what Florida State's got coming back, most talented team by far. A little bit less in experience than what you would like, but just look at their track record, guys. Look at all the defensive linemen they've taken, all the high school folks they've taken, especially the last couple of years compared to the first couple of years, and look what they have done with them. I mean, you can look at straight comparisons where all of our 4 all ACC preseason guys, they're all high school guys. They were all recruits that were like in the 300s to the thousands. If you go down to Shaheem Brown, I think it was like 1250 or something like that. This recruiting class, the most recent recruiting class, no, you're bringing in top 100 guys, number 25, number 48, number 50, whatever, number 60. You even get a guy out of the portal in Jaylen Brown, who is a top 100 guy, as a true sophomore to come in, or he might even got redshirted. He could be a redshirt freshman. Yeah, so yeah, it's really, really beautiful. And just have faith, guys. That's all I can say. I'm not going to go down this is the most talented team thing, because we've done a ton of that. But we can let Jen pick the next position you want to talk about. Who are you excited to hear about their growth? Is there anybody think is going to explode out of one of these position groups in the first scrimmage?
Well, I had one thing about linebacker, because I think Blake Nicholson reminds me of Moto from Madagascar. And I'm sorry, but I can't unsee it. And someone in the chat was talking about how jacked he looks, and like with his eyebrows, it's like all I see is Moto. Anyway, I had to say that. So if we've just given him a new nickname, you're welcome, Blake. So the position I'm interested to talk about, what the position I'm interested to talk about is. It's going to be defensive backs, because it's my favorite. It is my favorite. I do think there's a little bit of embarrassment of riches here for us. And if you look at it, did y'all see what my guy Ricky Knight did this week at practice? I'm just saying.
Yeah, takeaways. He had a few takeaways.
Yeah.
Mission takeaway. Yeah. Did well.
I'm super excited about this. I love it. I love the style. I love the flash. I can't wait to see it again. It does seem like we are going to have like these, defensive backs that, can move. And I do think Cypress, while last year he didn't do as well as people thought he was going to do, I think this year he is. I think this year is going to be his year of needing his NFL stock to go up. And I do think, he did allow a lot of catches, didn't allow a lot of, yards after the catch. We know that. And he had some really good plays, but I think this star or whatever, of course, is going to be AZ. And does everybody think he's going out for the draft this year? Because I kind of do.
It's possible. Yeah. I think it's possible. Definitely.
No
doubt.
Selfishly, I'd like to get him back, but yeah, if he gets that first round grade, you just gotta say congratulations, Camp.
Go get the bag, man.
Tap him on the butt, see him out. I think Ricky Knight is a good call, as you said. Part of those mission takeaways, and like I saw after like his first 3 or 4 practices, he hadn't given up a catch or anything. Like he had a perfect. He was just shut down out there. So that was really awesome. DB, I don't have many questions. I can't think if there's anybody I'm really looking to step up at DB. I would like to hear some good things back from Kevin Knowles in the slot and continue to hear good things from Earl Little Jr. Yeah. What do you think, Sean? Anything there for you on the DBs?
Yeah, I'll add another name. You mentioned Kevin Knowles, but Amarion also, because if you can get the Duke Cooper we had before he got injured, then you're getting someone that is a contributor. If he can turn back the clock that before he transferred and went to Colorado and had a tough season, and his freshman year, I believe it was, before he had the injuries in 22. We're getting something there. So it'll be interesting to watch his development coming along, and just him coming in, he could be an X factor in that room because he has experience. So he brings another experienced player there.
Yeah, no doubt. He has something in common with, several different players on this roster. That 2021 recruiting class came in and guys had to start. They had to go start, and they had to go start immediately. And these guys are kind of rolling back around. Now they're the juniors and seniors. He kind of took his medicine and came back.
Yeah.
I've been pretty critical on the program they've built out there at Colorado and how can you make it work? And, I think he's going to leave after 2 years, and I don't want to go down that path. But suffice to say, they had some talent out there at DB. That's a position you can get guys through the portal. And, if things didn't work out, we had a crazy run. We hit on a bunch of cornerbacks. It wasn't in the cards for him to start here. He was going to have to compete at safety. He went out there and started. He locked down half the field at Colorado and played pretty damn well, to be in a position on a team where they don't give a shit. The defense is going to be on the field 180 snaps a game. Your starting corner is the starting wide receiver. It's like, it wasn't the greatest situation, but I thought he played pretty well and was pretty professional out there. So for him to come back, I think he's a pretty vital, member of the secondary. So we'll see. But yeah, you're right. You hit that on the nose. I think he's probably the number one guy you want to see. And okay, what are we gonna? He came back. What are we gonna?
We're getting from him. Yeah.
He started. He was a starting corner and was pretty damn good. We all had real high hopes, before his injuries and things like that you brought up in 2022. So yeah, glad we got into that. If there's not anybody else we can move on, but go ahead, y'all. If there's anybody else, I guess Sean, go ahead if you've got. What was your other one? Your other position you can jump on.
Other position, of course, wide receiver. Really need to see what goes on there. I'm not concerned about getting receiving production because, as I've said before, Mike has a track record of scheming up. He did it in 22. His first year in Memphis, he did it. He has a history of just being able to create something out of the passing game, whether it's using other positions. But in particular, it seems as if this wide receiver room needs a boost, a shot in the arm, not just off of our projections or what's on paper, but we need to make, you really want to see which one of the receivers. Will it be the vets that step up and complement Benson, or will it be the younger receivers like Hakeem, or, even the Weezy or some of the other young receivers like Camden Fryer is a particular name I'm interested in seeing, and not just in the receiving room, but on special teams. You could see him contribute there. Gibson, you've heard some decent things from him, but of course we've all heard Weezy is really showing out, and he has a lot of promise to probably contribute very early. And you need to hit on, at least one of these freshmen to be able to give you at least 300 yards, in production, so that you can complement somebody that can complement Hakeem and Benson, and then we're not even talking about the biggest question marks in the room being Portier and Williamson. Everyone knows their history and injury and some inconsistency. So it'd be nice if you can get anything from them, or if they, take it up to another level and finally reach their full potential of production. Then we're cooking. We're cooking for real, because you got somebody that can truly complement.
Yeah, man. You hit on so many. I wanted to start talking every time you brought up a name. I'll start in reverse. Kentron Portier is one that I really, really want to see. Can he start off with a bang and be reliable, get out there, make his catches in the scrimmages, and be ready to go Monday, and be ready to go for the next scrimmage, and really build a rapport with DJU, because I think he's a guy that really could have a big year. Always been a fan. He's just kind of, struggled with health over the years, but has all the ability. He just hasn't had the drops and things that I've seen out of Darian Williamson that makes me, I love you, Darian. I said this about Jerion Jones like in 2022 or something like that, like his first kind of comeback year. I was like, he's saying all the good things. I'm hearing the great things out of camp. I've got an open mind. Let's see it. I'm all for it. If he kills it, I'll be his biggest fan. And from that time, he's absolutely balled out. He called his shot, and ended up being one of the best players on the team this past year. So we'll see. I'm trying to think. There's a comparison for Kentron Portier out there. I just can't put my finger on it, but he is definitely could be a pretty good part of this offense. As far as obviously we've got our guy Malik Benson that came in from Alabama. It would be nice to hear, wow, I mean, he popped for a touchdown and he did this, he did that. So would really like to see him do some things. I wonder, given it's going to be situational, I don't know how much of a red zone threat really he is. I don't know how much of his game that he will shine in that. They brought him in for the 20 to the 20 was the main thing with him. Not that he won't. You don't get me wrong. They're going to draw stuff up for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wonder how much run he'll get. How much we hear about him coming out. But this is an opportunity for Hakeem Williams to shine. I've heard plenty of good stuff about Malik and the different statistics. And like when he was targeted, he got the ball 90-something% of the time at Alabama. If you go look on like all his snaps when he wasn't throwing the ball, like he was open, all these things, like I'm not too worried there. I'm not worried about Hakeem, but there's this variance with Hakeem, unlike anybody else on the team, where he could be either, okay, whatever, he gets 20 catches for a couple hundred yards and maybe he can really bust out next year, or he could be 1,000 yards and Heisman talk next year, first round NFL talent. And I feel like since we brought him up, and I'll turn it over to one of you guys, Jalen, okay, the kid from LSU, same type of potential, athleticism, all those type of things as Hakeem. He just hasn't been here as long. So very much could see him emerge. And, you brought up Weezy and the young man, Elijah, who is just Elijah Moore is another one who you just keep hearing freaky things. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him, hear his name. But Hakeem Williams, that's who him and Portier, I guess, are my top two guys I'm looking to bust out. Any thoughts on wide receiver as far as, who might show up in the scrimmage for us, Jen?
Well, I'm going to piggyback off what you just said. I think Jalen Brown is going to be a little bit of a surprise for people. I really do. I also think Kentron Portier is going to be the long ball guy. I think. I'm not for sure how dependable that's going to be, but I also think, I think DJU is going to use some tight ends here, especially in the end zone. I think that's going to be his go-to. So I just, unless it's like a long ball with Kentron, those types of situations, I don't see. But I mean, again, I think Malik Benson is going to be the guy. I'm going to agree with you. I don't think it's going to be the end zone guy, because I think with DJ, if you're within the 20s or it's not a long ball, I think the long ball is going to be like a Portier type situation. And then I think in the end zone, he's going to go to his tight ends. I think. I don't know that for sure. I just feel like that's where he's comfortable. Now, again, things can change. I'm not saying anything else. But I'm not really that worried about the wide receiver room. I'm really not at all. I think we've got a ton, and I think every week someone else gets the opportunity to step up, and whether they take that opportunity or not is a different story. But they all have the ability to, and I'm just not that worried about it because this isn't a playbook that makes wide receivers want to get down on the ground like Jimbos, right? Like it's not the same. This is. I'm not that worried about it. I think Ron Dugans, I think Mike Norvell, I think they got it.
Yeah, I think you said the key thing at the very end there. If you remember back to 21 and 22, forget the amount of talent we had, but just the fact that there wasn't the Jersey guys. There wasn't the guys that you knew you had to get the ball. You didn't have a first-round draft pick in Keon Coleman that had to get his 10, 15 touches every single game. It's somebody different every week. And you can go back and look at the old Memphis games and think it's just going to be whoever's hot, whoever matches up against the defense. So I agree with Ben 100%. That's why I don't have the worry. He's going to scheme something up. The team is going to, whatever is the perceived strength, whether it's the run game or Malik Benson, double him, whatever the case may be, it's going to be a wide receiver or maybe a tight end. They're going to figure it out. And they're going to get the ball where it needs to go. They're going to get the ball to a playmaker. And one of the most least sold things ever is the running backs are part of the passing game. The running backs, say it with me. The running backs are part of the passing game. And DJU can throw it from all that 50 yards across the field with the slap, spin of the wrist, whatever you want to call it, a flick of the wrist, and it's beautiful. You can go watch those highlights from every practice from that drill. One of the outlets will pick it up where he's at the right hash and he slings that thing across the entire field and hits his running backs and they go up the field. And that's all four of them. Roydell Williams, we've talked about how he's a little faster than people think. He gets real skinny, all these things. He also can catch the hell out of the ball out of the backfield. I did not realize how good he is. He's damn near close to Toa Feely's level of catching the ball on those running back routes. As far as tight end goes, yeah, I've always been a Kyle Morlock stan. Like, I think he's going to be a beast. The sky's the limit for him just as soon as he gets I felt like he was kind of like Bambi last year, just still kind of getting control of those limbs, getting everything inside of himself. And he's looking a lot smoother out there from everything we've heard, making highlight plays. So, yeah, I agree. He's definitely going to be a weapon. And, of course, Amari Williams just continues to blow up, continues to jump up on the radar, along with Landon Thomas. So, yeah, super excited. I just got a text from Rohan. He said he will be here in 10 minutes, and that was probably 5 minutes ago. So, guys, if you're here for the conference realignment, for the, the discovery from AG Moody to do with the ACC and ESPN, he will be here very soon, and we can talk about that. But we covered a little bit of ground there, a little bit on running backs and tight ends, so we can go ahead and let you speak on that too if you want and get into the running backs and who we expect to step up.
Okay, I'll add some things with the tight ends just to bounce off of you. With Morlock, his versatility as a move tight end, they could actually flex him out wide. I think I'm looking forward and have an expectation that Mike might use a little bit more of the screen game with the back screens with the tight ends, because he did some of that stuff early. We know about the uncovered tight end play that he did with Biscuit a lot. But I think he has a lot more creativity with those positions, specifically in the passing game, than we've seen. Some of it may be some of the first years, the first 2 years, because we had to dial up passing plays because we didn't have the wide receiver talent. I think that's where we can see some production in the passing game to complement the deep speed. Because with going with Jaylen Brown, the biggest question with him is his hands. If you know anything, just concentration on catching the ball. But with the tight ends, I like the versatility. Like I said, Morlock can flex out, and then you added in Landon Thomas and Amari Williams, the athleticism that's there, and getting them in space will be key too. If they're playing, they're creating plays for them to get in space and utilize their athleticism.
Without a doubt. And people throwing up Jackson West in the chat. He's one that I forget to mention all the time. Yeah, he killed it. He had a really good spring game. It got dinged up a little bit. Kind of saw that a little bit behind the scenes thing there at the spring game. Couldn't say anything about it. Was all worried about that. That should have me worried for about a week. But then found out he was just fine and everything. So that was really cool, as well as Malik Benson, full goes for fall camp. Somebody got injured. It came out, I think Mike Norvell didn't mean to say it yesterday, but he came out and said somebody was injured, and they're hoping he gets him back. And I'm drawing a brain fart on this. If anybody knows who's that in the chat, let us know. If not, I'll figure it out and let y'all know before the show's over. But yeah, Jackson West is another one. Jackson West, Kyle Morlock, Landon Thomas, Amari West. Amari West, that's not his name.
Jackson West, Amari Williams,
yes. Jackson West. Tight end is going to take another step. You might get tired of us hearing it, or you might get tired of hearing us say it. But look, it's year 5. Year 4, if you want to ignore the COVID season, this team across the board, everybody's getting older. Everybody's getting a little better. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Micah Hyde Danzy at running back is somebody.
It's another name.
Super excited to see him and what he can do. He has crazy speed. You've heard some good stuff early on, tempered somewhat. Again, when you talk about true freshmen, they really have to do something. They have to really show something to get out there and get those snaps. But between Cam, Damsey, everybody back there, we would definitely see somebody. Ja'Kai Douglas is a guy that we didn't speak about. You saw him in the Georgia game, and you've seen him in the past throughout the years. He put in a position where he was the guy. He was like the only guy we could count on, and did pretty well. But that wasn't a winning, brand of football for Florida State. He's going to be in a position this year, kind of like DJU and kind of a lot of these guys, where he's going to have a full supporting cast around him and be able to show off. So yeah, I agree. I think Ja'Kai has his best year ever. And is kind of freed up to just really get schemed open by Mike Norvell and do some special things. And Jalen Lucas is a guy that is just – I'm really curious to hear how Jalen Lucas does against the first team and second team defense in the scrimmage, because it's kind of hard to pair to see what he did at the Big Ten, the kickoff returns and all that. You watch the one-on-one drills where he's just absolutely myrtleizing people out there. But what's it going to be like in a real game situation, in a real red zone situation and things of that nature? So I'm really curious to hear the feedback. Like, is he going to be that Darren Sproles guy, or is it okay? We're getting a little ahead of ourselves. So real interested to hear what comes back from that.
Yeah, as you just spoke on, man, it seems that it's got to be a family affair that can change the fortunes of the offense when you're talking about Lucas and Ja'Kai. I think the biggest thing with Ja'Kai is, I think last season, and was it 22 season, he kind of came into the beginning of the season already dinged up from fall practice. So, I hope that there's, he can get through practice and through camp, being able to be 100% healthy. I think this is the healthiest he's been going into fall camp, and then coming out, I'm just hoping that he's a healthy player to be able to contribute early, the first game. As Lucas goes, I mean, you got a Swiss Army knife. And when you already have one in Toa Philly, I mean, you got to figure out, okay, how to get him touches. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they do that. I mean, we know kickoff returns, but the passing game and even the run game, because he was a running back at Indiana, and there's highlights of him making, good. He's probably the best, has some of the best footwork in the running back room. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do and how they'll use him.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. I'm trying to think. We've hit about everything. We could talk a little bit of offensive line and D-line, get a little bit of the trench talk. Pat Payton, Darrell Jackson, Joshua Farmer. I hope they play for a little bit. Again, I'm curious to see what guys like Jalen Lucas can do against him early on. See what some of the running backs can do. Get Cam Davis a chance maybe to get a first team rep or two. Definitely want to see Roydell get some reps against those guys.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I don't have many questions. What do I want to hear? Marvin Jones Jr. obviously is like super A1, top of the board. Is he that guy? Is he really going to bully even our best, offensive lineman, just like Jermaine Johnson and then Jared Verse after him did? What's it going to be like? Is it going to be that, legend that starts to grow? Or is it going to be like, oh, okay, I think he found out today, that it's not going to be that easy. But, he still had his plays, things of that nature. So super excited, to hear what MJJ does. Can Aaron Hester continue that,
kind
another
of name.
momentum he had from the spring. Those are two big ones. And then obviously KJ Sampson, Daniel Lyons, and Grady Kelly. Those are kind of my questions as far as heading into the season. Can Marvin Jones Jr., can he be that starter? Can he be that +1 guy? Like maybe, people talk about him being the most athletic, thing on the field, all that stuff. Can he be the guy that just talked about as a first-round pick in 1 year? We're going to see. We've also got Siona Lolahea coming in, Tomiwa Durajaye. So definitely, obviously, with the transfers, excited to see what they do. But I don't know why. And I said it a little bit earlier in the show, but I'm so confident in the defensive transfers they bring in that Adam Fuller and Odell are going to coach them up. One thing about this coaching staff and it being, the same guys year after year, having that consistency year over year, I think it's really huge in today's day and age. You don't look around, there's just not much of it. Most everybody's in year 1, 2, or 3 around the entire country. That's just the nature of football. So yeah, I think we have that edge there. So thoughts on the D-line? Who are y'all excited to see?
For me, I would say I'm gonna go with the guys that, I'm looking at the floor, and if your floor is great or developing into good, then that means your ceiling is high. So I'm gonna throw out a name, Jaden Jones. That's one guy I'm interested in seeing his continual development. We talking about 6'6", 250.
Heard anything? Have you heard anything?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. So I'm interested in, I would love to hear some positive things coming out of camp from him from this scrimmage. Other than Jaden Jones, you mentioned two names I was going to throw out there, and that was Daniel Lyons and what's the name? I forgot his name. Sampson. KJ. Yeah. Sure. So Byron Turner's another name because he was in the rotation last year. So I want to hear it and see if he makes another step because I'm looking at the floor, and if those guys become rotational pieces and they contributors, I mean, it just makes everything better because you've already touched on like Marvin Jones and everybody else. But I'm looking at the guys who would be backup rotational pieces to those guys and being able to give them subs. Can you give me some snaps? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. I keep forgetting about Byron Turner Jr. So Byron Turner Jr., I apologize to you, sir. I keep leaving your name out of the conversation. But no, he should have been said before Aaron and a couple other guys that I mentioned. He's got the chance to be the next kind of Patrick Payton, the next homegrown, brought up from not a super high. He might have been a 4-star, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But still, he wasn't some freak everybody's freaking out over us getting him type prospect. So, yeah. Big jump we're expecting from Byron Turner Jr. And we can get back to the football in a little bit. We've covered most of the position groups, but we finally got our guy in here with us, Doug Rohan. Man, look, you were in like super HD. You've got the baddest ass phone I've ever seen in my life. He's just like in the truck looking more professional than anybody.
He's got an iPhone. I already know it. He's got an iPhone. I already know it.
Yep, iPhone 15, baby.
Yes, you do. I already knew it. I already knew it. You didn't have to even tell me. How's it going, guys?
Doing good, great. Man. We're freaking excited. We got a little bit of discovery. Discovery, baby. To be honest, we didn't learn much that we didn't already know, but what we did get is confirmation of a couple different theories and talking points and kind of context that we had no idea of where it came from until we finally got to see it in the document. So really excited to have you here and kind of talk about the latest happening since we've had you on last. And I'm just smitten because I can't remember how long it's been since we've had you on. It might have been 2 or 3 weeks. It might have been longer. But for the last month, it's been nonstop with the conference realignment theories. And it's like not just talking third person. FSU expected to the Big 12. Then it was expected to the SEC. Then back to the Big 12. And, all these people want to get angry with me and other people. No. They're locked up through 2036. That's just wishful thinking. That doesn't exist. Y'all are making that stuff up about 2027 and 2016 and 2019 and then 2021. And they pushed it again to 23 and then another time to 2025. So we got a little of that stuff spelled out. And as I've set the stage here, what was the biggest thing that stuck out to you? Where do you want to start off here with this?
Well, the biggest thing is to provide context again. This was not part of the FSU litigation proper. This was AG Moody's attempt to get the public disclosure of the ESPN agreements. And in a shock to absolutely no one, hopefully including to her office, we didn't get a whole lot. All those documents had about 80% of them redacted. There wasn't a lot of information. But, I want to go back. I was given, some people gave me some flack about it early on when I was being negative Nancy about AG Moody's push. I'm not a voter in Florida. I have no political leanings. I don't care, what her, position is. I'm just trying to call the balls and strikes. And I had said from the beginning, even though I'm very pro FSU in all of this litigation, that this was a wild goose chase. And it was principally because there's no way that ESPN was going to allow this information to come to light. So the instant she and her office canceled the hearing before the documents were produced, that's when I knew the ball game was over. The ACC was going to give her something because she said, just give me something. I know I'm going to lose, so just give me something so I can claim victory. I don't even have to check it before I take the hearing off the calendar. So let's go ahead and cancel the hearing, send me something, and I'll get to say that I won because I got the documents produced. Nothing that was in those documents was anything more than what we saw in North Carolina and what was produced to the public in the litigation so far. The one big difference, the one big change is that Florida State in their complaint was alleging some of these details and alleging some of this information, but they didn't have possession of the documents, so they couldn't include them as exhibits with their initial amended complaint. Now we have those documents. It's not so much that we're filling in the gaps, because there are still a lot of gaps, but what it's doing is it's validating some of the assertions that Florida State made. Florida State saw these documents without redaction. The judges have seen these documents without redaction. So when now Florida State alleges in their complaint 2036 is not the date, 2027 is the date, now we have the documents to understand why Florida State was saying that, and it validates some of what they said. Well, if some of what they said is true, then that probably means that all the other stuff that they were saying is also true.
So I want to read this really quick. Just so everybody knows what we're talking about here, because this, and yeah, we didn't get a ton. He spelled that out really nicely. But yeah, that's exactly it. We got a little bit of context and like proof that like, look, this is actually in the document. FSU didn't just make it up, and it's not a thing that's just wishful thinking amongst the fan base. And I really want your opinion on this, just to kind of just put it out there. And then we'll clip this thing if we got to, if it comes down to it, and we'll just let the people know how it is. But this is what it says, and it's a whole page, but this is all that isn't redacted. And it's the beginning of 14.1 on the extension option. ESPN's option to extend this contract through 28 through 2036 instead of just 2027. It says, ESPN has the exclusive revocable option, and it says the extension option, that makes that clear, but not the obligation to extend the agreement until unknown date. Subject to the remainder of this paragraph, such extended term of July 1st, 2027 to, and again, they don't let you know, by providing written notice to the conference no later than 2 years after the launch date of ACC/ESPN network. So, am I wrong, or did the ACC network launch in 2019?
August 22nd of 2019.
So 2 years out puts you right at the date that FSU alleges there was a unilateral decision to move forward this date that they had, how do I say this? The date that ESPN had to exercise this extension. Okay, and it's important to note that it also said revocable, not irrevocable. So that means the ACC could have pulled it off the table at any point, which we know they never would. That's, might as well just throw that word out there. But it wasn't irrevocable. It is revocable. So we know the ACC is not going to cancel it. They just want ESPN to sign it. So we know the 2 year term now. Is there a chance that it was extended for 4 years in 2021? Or was there another meeting in 2023 and they went forward? I'm not sure on the facts on that. But what I do know is from 2019 to where we are in 2024, with all the things that's happened in the past 6 months, agreeing to only one playoff pick in the SEC and the Big Ten gets 3 each. You don't go to bat, FSU gets left out. In 2019, the ACC had the same access to the playoffs as every other big conference: SEC, Pac-12, Big 12, Big 10, and in fact had been there more than anybody but the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't see how anybody in their right mind can look at that and think that somehow the ACC is in a better position than when ESPN punted down the road. And that's the one thing that I feel like has been highly contested, that ESPN ever kicked this thing down the road. So that's my question for you. Does this lay out that indeed ESPN had the chance to extend it and did not? They asked for, an extension, and somehow, whether it was without FSU's approval or the vote or anything, it was kicked down the road and pushed now 4 years past when it was supposed to be.
So 2 points I want to make. To your point, the question is very, very good. Let's first revisit what Jim Phillips said at the ACC Media Days. He said that this was a look-in provision. A look-in provision is a window that opens up in the contract to allow the parties to renegotiate. Bullshit. That's not what this is. This is a unilateral option, meaning only ESPN, exclusively ESPN, has the right but not the obligation to extend the agreement, which means if ESPN did nothing, this contract ends. They have to affirmatively do something. It is an option. Now, if you then make to my second point, the second point I want to make, if you look at the last document that was produced by the ESPN crew to the AG's office, it was the letter from ESPN to Jim Phillips, August of 2021, where they exercised their right to extend that agreement. So that was written in and contemplated in the media rights agreement. So this talk about the parties and the members need to vote, the members did vote. The members voted to approve the contract that said ESPN had a right to extend it to 2027. Because that's the language that was in the rest of the contract. Those are the payout schedules that were in there. Now, it's redacted. It's possible it could say through 2036. But then this goes back the long way to your point, which was if they did exercise the additional period, why is there now a February 1st, 2025 date? That is the issue. That's what needs to be litigated. And yes, it is quite possible that rather than exercising the full extension through 2036, as the ACC alleges, that ESPN is only going through 2027, and they have already exercised the contract, the extension that was contemplated in the contract, and there does not exist now a member voted codicil or portion of the contract that gives ESPN till 2036. That's where the conference commissioner could have gone rogue and provided a second window that was never contemplated in the contract.
So I want to open this up and let Jen and Deshawn get their questions in. But before I move on, I've got 2 things. First, is there any precedence in court where somebody's done this? Like somebody signed their contract and then all of a sudden 3 more, they just keep, unilaterally extending it, and then do you have you heard of a case like that? I know that's tough to just ask for you to pull precedents out of your butt there.
I don't know about 3 extensions, but it is common in contract law to say if you extend. You see it in sports all the time. You have the option to extend. The athlete has the option. The ball club has the option. And they pre-evaluate, pre-negotiate what that option is going to look like. So in the current contract with the media rights agreement, we know it's a 4.5% escalation clause each year. But the contract in 3 other paragraphs only spells out what those payments are through 2027. Now, there could be something in that redacted portion below 14.1 that says something else, But it would seem to me that if they truly were intending to extend the terms of the contract, they needed to extend more than just paragraph 14.1. They needed to extend paragraphs 27.3 and 32.1. All of those paragraphs that said this is the payment schedule through 2027. If they anticipated it going through 2036, they needed to lay out those additional 9 years of payments as well.
Very beautifully said, and it leads me up to the other thing I wanted to get done before I turn you over to the rest of the panel. It was a David Hale tweet, and I get it. The guy works for ESPN. He does really good on a lot of stuff. He's one of my favorite guys over there. But at the end of the day, that's where his paycheck comes. I'm not accusing of a directive to have come down and said, hey, it's getting a little crappy out here. We're getting the shitty end of the stick. All of a sudden, things have flipped. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that would make sense. But I'm going to read the tweet to you. And it you brought up that escalation that happens. So you lose Florida State and Clemson. Well, that escalation is still in there unless you're able to rework that contract, which again takes you back to that's an out. He says, from my reporting on this with numerous league and school admins, I haven't talked to anyone who expects ESPN to decline the option, and the sticking points are not FSU and Clemson, but rather more prosaic issues like broadcast windows and assurances on possible future expansion, i.e. don't go adding 3 new schools without the network's enthusiastic support. Now, that last part, yeah, hell yeah. Don't go adding schools on your own. But not about FSU, Clemson, but yes, about broadcast windows. We went all through all the stats. The 60 freaking times over 4 million. It's FSU on ABC and ESPN. The idea that broadcast windows and what they will be over the next 10 years is not directly tied to whether FSU or Clemson is in the damn conference. I tweeted, this is just the funniest thing I've ever read in my life. And I respect the guy. So that's why working for ESPN is the only angle. Is there some angle I'm missing here, or can we all laugh at that tweet together? Sorry, Jen. I just had to get that little rant off my chest.
It's humorous. Go ahead, Jen.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I don't know what broadcast windows they're talking about. They don't broadcast a damn thing after football season other than something nobody fucking watches or gives 2 shits about. So I'm sorry. What are your broadcast windows? Explain it to me like I'm an idiot because I don't know what any of that means. Nobody watches the ACC network if you take away Clemson or Florida State content. Nobody. This includes North Carolina, Duke, North Carolina State, Miami, guys. Y'all listen to me. Nobody watches you on the ACC network. Nobody cares. Nobody watches. That's why they don't even have a guy from Miami to anchor on the ACC network because nobody gives a shit. Okay, so someone explain to me the windows y'all are talking about. I just need to hear it. I'm sorry. That was my 2 cents.
So as I understand it, and feel free to correct me if you know otherwise, but historically, ABC has broadcast a 3:30 ACC game and an 8 p.m. ACC game. Mm-hmm. So what they're saying is that right now it's a contractual requirement that ABC carry those 2 spots for the ACC. Well, if Clemson and Florida State are gone, then they struggle to come up with 2 marquee games to fill those 2 spots. Yeah. So that's why they're saying they want to renegotiate those opening windows, because when they lose Florida State and Clemson, they want to go broadcast SEC games that are no longer on CBS. Remember, the CBS contract is up.
Yes.
So they want the nooners for the ACC.
Of course.
Yeah.
Boston
I mean,
College,
that's where
Florida
losers
State
go. We know that. That's where losers go.
Yeah. That's why it's just so crazy that David Hale would say that. It's like in back-to-back sentences. Let me read it again here. It says, I haven't talked to anyone who expects ESPN to decline the option, and the sticking points are not about FSU and Clemson, but more prosaic issues like broadcast window. He laid it out, Jim laid it out in the roast fashion. And again, yes, the broadcast windows, they're worried about it because FSU and Clemson could possibly leave. So, like just the gall to say it. It's not because of FSU Clemson. It has to do with the broadcast windows. When FSU and Clemson has held those broadcast windows for whatever, the entire 30 years they've been in the conference. If NC State is getting on the primetime broadcast window, it's because they're playing Florida State. Same thing for UNC, whoever else is playing Clemson, yada, yada. And even when we suck, that's what's so crazy about it. Who are these teams that, like, it's just the logic of it. I just don't understand how people are fighting it. Like, look at what they're talking about. They're arguing about broadcast windows, escalation clauses, all these things through 2036, all with FSU and Clemson leaving, hanging over the head of it. And they want to pretend that that's not part of it. Like, everybody and their brother admits when we leave, it's 40% of the conference gone. So ESPN is just, and they act like, well, why wouldn't they extend it? They're just going to take a 40% hit? Like, if that was the case, why wouldn't they give us a 25% raise right now and be done with it?
There's two other problems with that tweet that are more subtle as well. The first of which is, I don't expect nobody has said they're not going to pick it up. But yet, why are there sticking points? There can't be sticking points if they've already decided they're going to pick it up. Second, you have the issue of the realization that all that we're hearing from the official mouthpieces is a misinformation campaign. Everything is a misinformation campaign. I talked to TJ about this earlier today. You have, the SEC and the Big Ten saying, we have no interest in those scumbag Seminoles because they are rabble rousers and we can't stand them. That's what you need to have in the deposition when you're being cross-examined for a case of tortious interference. You want to have the tweet that says, we don't like those assholes.
Documentation.
By contrast, you have the Big 12 trying to raise their profile saying, hell yeah, we'll take Florida State. Well, guess what? If we went to the Big 12, they'd get in trouble for tortious interference. So we know for a fact that Big 12 is not an option, because if the Big 12 was an option, they sure as shit wouldn't say it's an option.
Exactly.
Boy, it's crazy how all that died down and everybody wants peace. I just find it funny, I don't know. I'm not trying to brag, guys, but Jen's right all the time. I'm only right every once in a while, and we were all kind of in on this. It's like nobody here was like saying anything crazy, just reporting the best we could on the facts. We have an FSU lean, don't get it twisted. It's an FSU show, but there's no sense. We all went through the Travis Hunter thing. We've lived through what they called the lost decade, all these things. FSU fans don't need extra punishment. I'm not going to get my hopes up for some miracle. We literally have had multiple lawyers. Our good friend Doug comes, when everything was going on, he was with us every week. But now whenever something comes up and he's off of the Boy Scouts, he comes through and hangs out. And we're not bullshitting you guys. We're trying to give you guys the real deal. And the part that irked me the most is that people had different ideas. Everybody has different takes and things of that nature. But it got really crappy about this whole 27 thing. This whole fight of whether it was 27 or 36. And then, the idea of like acting like people aren't being good journalists because they're talking about possible third-party talks with the Big Ten. And then all of a sudden, every blogger that works for 247 is allowed to put out third-party talks with the Big 12 and expected. And when everything settled down, it came right back to 25 is pretty much a pipe dream at this point, but by 26 or 27, it's looking like a real possibility that FSU would be there. And it goes into the whole Project Seminole thing with Research AAU, the specific dollar amounts of having 50 million sitting there and then another 200 million. Well, okay, well, the exit fee is 140 million. That can't be for 10 years worth of shit, right? That can only be for a year or two, right? Maybe some legal fees. But anyways, Deshawn, I don't think you got a word in edgewise. So any questions or anything on your mind on this?
Doug, I got a question. It's kind of hypothetical, but let's say ESPN doesn't renew, February 1st hits. And as we start to transition towards 27, does that give Florida State the option to try to argue their rights now? Because it's no I can't pronounce it, but contractual obligation getting into 27 where, okay, they didn't renew. So we have this 2036 gore on the table, but we can argue our rights here. Is there a window there for them to do that?
Yeah, remember that's exactly what Texas and Oklahoma did. They didn't wait till the
Okay.
end of the contract. It was about a year out from the end of the contract, and they paid that. So
Okay.
absolutely, once we get past February 1st of 2025, and ESPN doesn't exercise their agreement, then we know the definitive end date is 2027. So then we're
Okay.
just sitting there negotiating. And remember, that's July 2027, so that's after the 2026 football season.
Oh,
Yeah.
So get excited. We're not talking about playing through the 2027 football season. We're just talking about 2025 and 2026. Well, I think we want to be out by 2026 anyway. So
yeah.
pay them 1 year of the grant of rights, pay them the exit fee, and we're out. We're out
Peace
for under
out.
200 million, just like we said.
That would
Okay.
sure be the plan,
Drop
man. I cannot
one.
wait. Oh boy, it would be nice to be able to just dominate for 2 years and then just
In this
haul
league,
ass.
I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, probably not. Probably
All
not.
right,
You've
Jen, you got a
seen
question?
them?
Otherwise, I need to head on out. What do you
Okay.
got, Jen?
No, I'm good. I'm good. You've answered all my questions. I loved it. Thank you so much for joining. It was
Thank you,
nice to
Doug.
see you as
You guys are the best.
always.
Make sure to plug. Let everybody know about where to go get fixed up before you haul ass now.
Yep, Atlanta, Georgia, if you run into any trouble. And actually, I've gotten several calls from Florida State fans. This has been a really nice benefit of doing this. I've just earned their trust. So even though they're not calling me about a Georgia case, they're calling me about a Mississippi case, they're calling me about a Florida case, and they just want help picking the right attorney. I know several attorneys in all the surrounding states. I know what to look for and who's just BSing you, who's got a billboard up, and who's actually going to be a litigator that's going to fight for your rights. So make sure if you do have an accident case with some serious injuries, you give me a call. And it doesn't have to be in Georgia. Just let me know, what happened and where it happened, and we'll get you plugged in. I'm kind of acting like a broker. I'm going to broker out these attorneys to make sure you get the best fit possible for your need and what's going on. But follow us on social media, active on Twitter at Rohan Law, and we'll see you on the social medias.
You heard him.
Awesome.
Get out there and support. If you get in trouble, go see Doug. And that's the best way, man. If you need help, word of mouth. It's all about who you know. You'll get a lot better. You'll get sent a lot better way going to Doug than going to whatever, the white pages or whatever. You never know what scammer just saved up just enough money for that white pages ad.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm here for it. See y'all. Take care.
All right,
Appreciate you,
Doug.
Doug.
Thank you.
Doug coming through and, adding a little bit of what's the word, credibility, confirmation, just to confirm that we're not spinning crazy conspiracy theories. But it is pretty funny to end up exactly where we were when the postseason pretty much started, since we started talking about this last year with Chris and James and everybody. And then this whole, since the suits came out, pretty much our working theory, from the entire time is pretty much looks like it's just absolutely come to fruition. I've seen some different stuff in the chat talking about, how come we didn't get into this disruptive partnership with Texas and Oklahoma and any of the other teams to leave? And look, it's just, well, like Doug put it, it's just misinformation campaigns. People love to hate Florida State. There's literally only 2 teams left in the entire country that stayed with their conference. Only 2. It's Florida State and Clemson. They're the only 2 national powers that didn't jet and haul ass. So it's like, oh, since you're the last one, we're going to make you. It's like, we really provided cover for Clemson. I'll tell you what, them jokers, they took that shade and were able to move in darkness. Nobody messes with Clemson either. But maybe it's because of us. Maybe it's because there's 40 FSU podcasts and, it really is. It's a super challenging, competitive field. All the people between 247 on 3, and then the new era media, as I like to call it, between Chris, myself, James, CJ, all the different people. Like, it's really hard. You're really fighting to get you guys' undivided attention and things like that. So we really appreciate you guys. We try to keep y'all entertained. I see Tiny Hat jump in the chat here. Make sure you guys check out the roast. They took a week off, but going to be back Monday. And I promise you it will be an absolute hitter. That's for sure. We need to have Tiny Hat maybe on the regular show here one of these days pretty quick again. But I think we about covered everything pretty well. We made it in an hour, 10 minutes. I think Chris is supposed to be having a show tonight at Spear Addicts. Y'all can catch that if he's doing that. But anything on y'all's mind before we get out of here?
No. Just make sure y'all hit like, share, and subscribe. That's it.
I mean, we could take a few questions. I haven't
Yeah.
seen a bunch of
Yeah, do we have
questions
any
in there.
questions?
Any questions,
Look,
Kat? Let us know. I'll put the number up there. We'll do this. We'll bullshit for another 5 minutes. I'll throw the number up here. We'll see if we get some calls. Go ahead, Jen.
no, I was just gonna say about the conference stuff. I mean, look, I don't think there was any time period that Florida State's going to the Big 12 without Texas and Oklahoma there. If Texas and Oklahoma were in the Big 12 a couple years ago, that rumor would have made sense, correct?
Yes.
So this way, it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. The Big 12 cannot afford Florida State, and Florida State or Clemson is not going to a conference funded by private equity. It makes no sense. And like I'm not going to call anybody dumb. I do think that some people are used by some conferences. I think there's no way that people with a straight face can be like, wow, the Big 10, they can't talk about anything, or the SEC can't talk about anything, but everything the Big 12 says is true and for real, and they're going to the Big 12. I can't deal with this. No. If Florida State had to go to the Big, like I said, if Florida State ever had to go to the Big 12, I would think it would be such a failure by the university, and I've never seen anything out of Michael Alford or the current president that would tell me that they would fail that badly. Okay. Yeah. So no, I'm not here for it. I will debunk it. I will make fun of people. I will laugh. I will make fun of anybody who says it. If I get tagged in something, I promise you, I will make fun of it, and you'll get my comment on your Twitter if you tag me in it with any Big 12 weirdo saying that we're going to the Big 12. I will guarantee that I will do that for you.
I think sometimes some of these things, I'm not being a conspiracy theorist, but sometimes it's sleight of hand there. I think because there's always been rumors that the Big 12 was eyeing programs and universities like Louisville. So you don't want to get caught saying Louisville, but hey, you'll easily say a program like Florida State or Clemson that you have no real chance of landing. But if your target is a Virginia Tech or a Louisville, you just basically you're basically showing a card. You're saying this, but that's really a sleight of hand. You're really not targeting these programs. You're targeting these. And
aim for the stars and land on the moon, baby.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wishful thinking, but yeah, that was never gonna happen. It was all a bunch of bullshit. I just hope we saved you guys some clicks and some stress. We tried to let you guys know we don't do, a bunch of crazy, trying to garner these big threads on Twitter and stuff like people. It just naturally happens off of something we tweet. But there was a lot of that going on. I had a lot of people DM me, like pulling their hair. I thought you guys told us this. Look, it's saying that. You got an opinion on this. You got an opinion. Tell them every day, like, look, guys, this is what it is. Nothing's ever changed. That's where we're at. It looks like y'all are pretty happy. We don't have anybody calling in. I don't see any questions rolling in. Deshawn, any thoughts? Anything? But I spoke too soon. If I had to guess, I would say this is probably Tiny Hat. Maybe even Go ahead. You're live with the Renegade Rundown.
Yes. The Tiny Hat CEO has returned to the Renegade Rundown. What is going on to the squad? Shout out to George for making all of that lemon flavored moonshine in his bathtub. Shout out to my girl, the FSU Harley Quinn. Jen, I love it. What's going on, Deshawn? I see you out there shining, looking like a box of milk duds up there. I see you, boy. That's what's going on. But you know what? I wanted to come on here because I was listening in to what the FSU lawyer was saying, okay? And he said something that really made me mad, and I really wanted to get this off my chest, guy. What I heard him say was that AG Moody from down here in the state of Florida, he said it was a non-winnable situation. She knew she wasn't going to get nothing when she got her hands on that contract. She was just like, just throw me a bone, throw something to me, please, so that I can make it seem like I got to win. And everything that she got was what we already knew. See, this is the problem that I have. All right? AG Moody, if you ever go online, I want all of y'all to jump on the Google right now, type in Ashley Moody, Attorney General, and take a look at her. I should have known that we shouldn't have had no faith in her sorry ass. She looked just like Heather Dennett. She looked like a whole posse awesome out here. Right? And she built like a whole tongue depressor. She looked like a popsicle stick that some 8-year-old kid and finished sucking on, and they mama threw it in the trash out here. You didn't do a damn thing for us out here, and this is exactly what we get for trying to give you any type of leeway and shine. The Florida State lawyers was already all over this. The front office was already all over this, and we went out here and we did exactly what we said we was going to do. Just get all of it out on Front Street. All right, that's what I saw. I'm PO'd right now because this is the last time that I put any faith in anything out of that rat ass group that we got up there in Tallahassee and the politics up there. We ain't getting into politics, but when I heard that just made me mad. I threw my tiny head on and made sure that I left my son in there with too much bubble bath in his tub right now because I was pissed off about what I was hearing. All right, either way it goes, Florida State. We on our way out of this rat ass conference. We ain't gonna have to deal with these people no more. The Big 12 fans, listen, enjoy the rest of your mid majors. All right, you already got Cincinnati, you got BYU. Go ahead and add the Hurricanes because that's gonna be the only type of status you're gonna get. And I want to give a shout out to the University of Cincinnati. That's the one thing good about the Big 12, the University of Cincinnati. And you know why that's the one thing that's good? Because don't nobody give a damn about what people in Cincinnati are talking about. They're keeping their mouths closed. They're wearing their little red and black, and they're going on about their merry days, being happy if they win a game or two here or there. That's the only good thing coming out of the Big 12. The Baylor fans can shut the hell up. Who else is in that conference? I don't even know who is in that raggedy ass conference. Arizona and Arizona State, they can go shut their asses up. And the rest of them, Colorado. That's what I got to say about Colorado. Okay, there's nothing good in the Big 12. We're not coming over there. You're not inviting us to your party. As a matter of fact, you inviting us to your party, and we looking at your invitation, and we throwing that shit in the trash. We using that for kindling to go light our grill. That's what we doing with your invitation to the Big 12. Don't come over here talking to us about what you want us to do. We not coming. All right, you that ugly ass girl that invites us out to the little turnaround dance, and we go, ill, I can do way better than this, and we go and talk to your sister. All right, that's what we do. Okay, so keep our names out your mouth. Don't think you got our phone number because it's not real. That's a text now number. It don't work, and we don't want to hear nothing else from you. Florida State, we up. The season is coming. We got games at the end of this month, baby, and we about to start dominating the game again. We are going for the back-to-back state champ title. And I can't wait for us to do it. Tiny Hat Gang, we out.
As always,
All right.
Tiny Hat brings the fire. What a way to end the show. I'm very well entertained and fulfilled. How about you guys? Y'all ready to call it today?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out Tiny Hat's so right about AG Moody. I mean, she's a Gator. Like, she's a Gator. She was willing to take an L publicly. That's what they do, you know?
Yeah, that just comes with being a Gator, man. That's just part of it. And she definitely, I don't know if I thought it subconsciously or it was that I was looking for a picture of Dinich one day and accidentally clicked on hers or vice versa. But she really does favor Heather Dinich. I'm sorry,
it's hilarious.
You do. You look just like her. But all righty, guys.
I'm not sorry. You're a Gator, so I'm not sorry. So I don't care. You chose wrongly.
Take us out. Well, you got to let Deshawn plug his thing, but take us out.
Good. Oh, well, thank y'all. It's Double D's Let's Talk Ball podcast. Also D's Corner, DSCORNER, D's Corner. Y'all tap in with us. We'll be cranking back up tomorrow evening to start talking on camp news and things. Just make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
Boom. You heard it there first. We hope you had fun all the way around. Again, go hit that like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. I know half of you guys aren't subscribed because I get the statistics. So just one or two of you guys hit that sub button. We appreciate you. Go follow everybody on Twitter, and we will see you guys next time right here at the Renegade Rundown.